recording. All right, guys. So I'm sure we'll probably have a few more people roll in the next few minutes, but again, if anyone has anything they'd like discussed tonight or any questions at all or anything you're struggling with that you'd like just alchemically dropped into the mix of this class, feel free to put it in the chat. Otherwise, let's just step into the class. So, as I step into a class like this, I'm coming literally from a tremendously busy string of moments where, just like you, everything has everything has its own shape and feeling and mess and all of that. And that's what your consciousness fills, right? You're looking at the mess in front of you, whether it's a temporary arrangement of tasks or the way the cards are falling in a year of your life, or piles that have been sitting there since you were a child. Consciousness fills that, and it floods it and plays it like an instrument. As the light of consciousness flows through, what comes out is feeling, sound and feeling and tendency. And so then you step into a course to a class like this, and you have to be able to let it go. So you have a day with all of these stories and all of these temporary piles of things. Consciousness flows through, and that whole world creates a feeling. And then you have to shift, which means you have to be able to let go of it. You have to be able to drop it all and shift. And the second you do that, what you notice is that the entire feeling changes. It all changes immediately. Not because the pile got taken care of, not because everything went the way it was supposed to go necessarily, but because that was never the problem. The problem was you were flooding your consciousness into it. And maybe that's appropriate, right? When you flood your consciousness into something, it evolves it. And so that's our task in life, right? We have things put on our plate and we give it attention, and that attention evolves it. But you see those people who are so tired of what they're looking at that they need to constantly escape their life in order to feel okay. Right? If they're not getting on a plane and going somewhere, they can't just let it go and let that energy just play a different instrument, a different arrangement of life. Just going to mute you guys here. If you have any questions, you can unmute yourself. But I guess I say this to you because I just don't want you to neglect to notice. As you shift your attention, what you've literally done is you've changed the whole form that consciousness is flowing into. You using consciousness to flow through and vibrate the strings on a cello, and then you let it go, and now the cello sound isn't there anymore. Even though the cello is still there. You shifted. So the beauty of something like meditation and the way we practice it here is that you get to see that. You get to see it. You get to see all the noise stop. There's a moment in any class where you guys get very comfortable and very clear. Sometimes it takes 10 minutes, sometimes it takes longer. Usually happens faster in class than on your own. But what's making that happen is not me. What's making that happen is you. You're cleaning the canvas, and what your energy is and attention is flowing to is clean. It's not filling those same structures. And because those structures are built really out of all your past tendencies, cleaning that canvas allows you to step into a new day. But more than that, when you can see the change happen, it shows you your responsibility in life. It shows you how all the things that you think are being done to you are really just invitations as places for you to put your attention. And you may need to spend a period of time every day looking at something unpleasant. That might be your job. It's certainly mine sometimes. But there comes a time in every day where it's time to shift, right? And if you can't shift, then that becomes your identity. That becomes the experience of what it means to be you. But not because someone's doing it to you. But because you are refusing to clear the slate. So none of that is anything to take my word for. Meditation shows you that. And I just bring it up to say, don't neglect to notice it. It's the most important realization of your life. And it's within your reach. It's not a tough one, really. When you can see how it works and how you're participating in it, you'll make different choices. Or you'll keep the exact same choices, but you'll stop resenting them so much. You'll know why you're doing it. And you'll be looking for the growth that comes from giving your attention to something. We weren't put here to sit on a cloud. We were dropped into a messy world. It's okay if it doesn't feel good. Are there any questions about that before we get rolling into meditation? I just thought for me, because the shift from mess on the table to having to sit down and teach a class was so abrupt. It just seemed like a teaching waiting to happen. Okay. So let's clear the slate. The way you clear the slate is not by pushing anything away. You clear the slate by releasing all the little points of hard focus, and you enter into a softer focus. Let your eyes take in the entire room at once. Gently keep your attention at the forehead and crown. No strain, no effort. Just a friendly willingness to let go and shift into a new form. See it all at once. Hear it all at once. Feel it all at once. And don't grab onto any of it. Who are you when you're not working an angle of the story? When you're not ensuring that things go a certain way? When it's all just allowed to flow. Step into that place. You get there by letting go of anything that is not that place. Anything that pulls against it. You don't pull towards it, you let go of anything that pulls against it. Why? Because that place is the non-aberrated version of you. It's what you actually are. Let go of your role. You're not a spouse here. You're not a mother here. You're not a daughter here. You're not a son. Those are just storylines that you filled. You can go back to them when we're done. It's not you. Spend some time with what you are. And just breathe comfortably in the freedom of that. Now I'm going to stop talking. And I want you to let go of anything that pulls against that free flow. And your job is just to stay awake and aware while it all flows. Manipulate nothing, play with nothing, reach for nothing. There's nothing to learn, no one to impress. The moment is complete. It doesn't need anything from you. And you are it. And when the mind puts a story of lack on the screen and invites you to leave your wholeness to participate in lack, just let go. We don't need to be the puppets of our minds. To be the puppet of your mind is to be the puppet of your past and everybody who fed into you. Let it all go. The moment in front of you is everything. Slow down and meet it. Let go and become it. Do that now. let go. The internal world that you indulge yourself in now is the veil between you and what's real. The practice of meditation is to let it go. So that that awareness can be redirected to the totality of your consciousness in this living, breathing moment. Stop playing with things that don't matter. When you really do it, it's like waking up from a dream. Those mornings when you're stuck in something that feels so real. And then you wake up and it's not there. It was fueled entirely by your conscious attention and your subconscious attention. And your body anchored you into another reality as you woke up. But the life of this body is also a dream. wake up from it. Come back into your beingness. See that everything is okay. There was nothing to fix. That was part of the dream. The pain was part of the dream. You can go back and continue working on it. You have the capacity to dream. But you can also step out of it and show yourself that it isn't real. The meanings you assign to it aren't real. And they cause you to suffer. It's like when you've been working at a desk for hours and hours and hours, and then all of a sudden you look up from the desk and you remember that there's a whole world off the desk. Release your grip and open up. And those mild dissonant feelings in your body, we could get rid of them. We could do the moving up and down the mountain technique, where you're at your head and then your heart and then your lower center and back and forth. Or you could just let them be there. And wake up with them present. Consciously release your investment in it. And that has value true. No tricks. Just a choice. Step back into the flow of alignment. It's more powerful that way, really. You can own it. You can come to know the mechanics of consciousness intimately that way. Those parts that you're still hanging on to are getting in the way of you enjoying the benefits of letting go of the parts that you're letting go of. That feeling that you've stumbled upon in meditation that keeps you coming back to a class like this, it doesn't come until you've let it all go. Not 99.9%, but all of it, even if just for a moment. Don't just dip your toe in the water, you need to jump in. And if you do, you'll feel the support rise up. as the comfort comes in, you have to stay awake. You have to be relaxed and alert at the same time. Soothed and alert. Let go of either and the flow stops. Let it open you. Now, as you come back and re-enter the story of your life, in the early moments of coming back, you can actually feel what it feels like to project reality into the story. The story actually feels good in a way because it brings form back to that projective consciousness. And so you can really feel the potency of that energy a little more. But there's a give and a take to a story. Who's directing who? It's a dance, really. You know, the idea is not to be unaffected by the story, but to be aware of how it's affecting you. To bring that clarity forward as needed. And when the story starts to go downhill, when it starts to turn into chaos and misery, that you're aware that that's happening and you catch that. You act upon it. And bring just the potency of that reality consciousness back into the mix. You know, in the story of life, this often makes you look like a fierce person or a stern person or, I guess, an expansive person. It just sort of depends. But you do what you have to do. Because otherwise, if you just let it backwash on you and take you down, you will lose the ability to wake up from the dream. Right now you come here once a week, and so you've got someone who wakes you up whether you're dead asleep or not, to whatever extent I'm able. But you know, you go through phases where you forget why you want to come here, and I mean, our life just gets very busy. You're going to need to be able to keep yourself awake. You want to make sure that you're learning that from this. So my advice is every single day, get yourself here. Get yourself clear, let go of the story completely, step in to unaberrated consciousness. Just so you can remember where that is. That'll keep that candle lit, and then your job is to step back into the story, but don't let the story blow the candle out. Doesn't mean you enter rigidly. It doesn't mean you enter in a way where nothing can affect you. None of that works long term. You just heal your relationship with the story by being aware of its influence on you and your influence on it. And just gently, through who you are at the core of your being, influencing it in the direction of balance. Not through manipulation, but through who you are at your center. That's what I do with you every week. You can do that with your life too. I don't force you into shape. I invite you into shape. I show you energetically what that looks like, and you respond. The story part of you responds. It opens up. It makes room for the part of you that's the same as me to come forward. Can you feel that? Approach your life the same way. Doesn't mean everything's always going to be great. You're sharing this world with a lot of people. It means that your contribution will be coming from a place of reality. Or if you have to participate in a relativity, you do it consciously, and you can see when you have to let go of it. Any questions about that before we end for the night? Mm-hmm. It's getting cleaned. So your conscious mind and your subconscious mind are always kind of in communication with each other. The subconscious, which for most people is just filled with a bunch of fears and desires, bubbles up and starts to control the conscious mind, and it makes you start thinking in ways that are usually, petty and human. You have the highest part of yourself, which is what you experience usually in deep meditation. I think probably everybody in this room has had that experience where just suddenly this clarity dawns upon them. Different levels, but I think we all have our connection to that. That highest part of the self speaks to the subconscious. But part of the mechanism of life and the reason we grow is that the highest part of the self does not have a direct link to the conscious. So it has to get to the conscious through the subconscious. And so if your subconscious is just filled with the muck of your day, and you aren't able to just sit down, throw everything open, and kind of let that conscious command filter into the subconscious so that it starts letting go, right? It's saying, hey, hang on to this. Hey, worry about this. And you are just showing it open. You're using your conscious mind to clean the subconscious. And when that happens, the highest part of you goes down into the subconscious, but because the subconscious isn't a mess, what comes up is an experience of divinity, for lack of a better word, and guidance when you get really clean. Yep. And again, that's like, none of that's anything to memorize. You have to let yourself live it. It's not something reserved for people like me. Every one of you is interacting with that process all day long. A simple practice like what we give you here will put you right there. Many of you have had experiences like that. The idea is to just become conscious so that you're not stumbling into them. You can, just like I do, I sit down and I just throw myself open. My subconscious already knows what that means, and it just parts the seas. And then I can sit here with no idea what we're going to talk about, and still somehow what you need to hear comes forward. That is within the reach of everybody in this room. There's nothing special about me. And this is the road to it. So think work with that this week. Don't let a day go by where you don't clear out once at least, so that your body starts to get used to it. Even if it's just for 15 minutes. Anything else before we end? All right, everybody. I will see you next Thursday. Have a great night.